The contract we have had with the public, that we try to give people a fair and accurate picture of the world, and we are your eyes and your ears, and we'll try to filter the world for you in order for you to make up your mind. That contract is slowly, steadily being broken because more and more people don't believe that's what we do.
Infobésité, fatigue ou crise de foi médiatique. À l'heure où beaucoup critiquent la presse pour ses dérives, certains envisagent d'exercer leur métier différemment. De quoi éclairer autrement les faits d'actualité?
A lot of journalists almost feel that their identity is to be something like a policeman in a way, to catch bad guys. A lot of people go into the field and it's part of their personality, in fact. They like to speak truth to power, they like to be the skunk at the picnic. But part of the mindset shift is that if you only do that, or if you do that 90% of the time, you're going to produce a society that feels very disengaged, disempowered, fearful. You, in fact, are going to feed stereotypes, racial stereotypes. In the United States, we cover communities of color most of the time through their problems. We almost define them by their deficits and their challenges in journalism.
Ah, ces médias, toujours négatifs, anxiogènes. On leur reproche depuis toujours de ne parler que des trains qui arrivent en retard et de nous donner une perception inexacte du monde. Quand ça saigne, ça baigne, dit-on même dans le monde anglo-saxon. Mais est-ce bien normal ? Un autre journalisme serait envisageable, enquêtant avec rigueur sur les solutions qui permettent de donner une vision plus équilibrée et plus fine du monde qui nous entoure.
This is the wall of horror. That's just to show how we filter the world. What is news? A good story is a bad story, right? This is the leading newspaper in Denmark saying the world in 2017, fire in all engines, and doing stories about North Korea, Iran, Trump, Putin, and there's nothing wrong with that. But is it true that in 2017 that you can conclude there's a fire in all engines? 2017 was the year when not one person died in a commercial air crash. It was the year we beat Ebola. You could have mentioned that to balance it a little. But we think our job is only to point at the conflict and the dramatic and the extreme.
Alors je pense que ces histoires-là sont sous le radar des journalistes pour plusieurs raisons. La première, c'est que déjà ils n'ont pas beaucoup de temps, ils ont de moins en moins de temps, d'où l'importance effectivement de financer les médias, de les payer. L'information, c'est pas quelque chose qui est gratuit. Donc ils n'ont pas assez de temps pour aller chercher, pour développer ces réseaux, pour avoir des journalistes spécialisés un peu sur ces sujets, parce que c'est pas des sujets qu'on trouve comme ça. En caricaturant, c'est facile de faire la une d'un journal avec des enfants, des gens ensanglantés après l'explosion d'une bombe. Faire la une du journal avec une histoire de solution, c'est plus compliqué. Si le média teste cette approche-là, il faut la tester jusqu'au bout et mettre les mêmes moyens que les autres chroniques ou les autres rubriques.
And I'm not talking about ignoring any problems. That would be North Korean version of journalism. I'm not talking about that. And I'm not talking about happy news. I'm not talking about positive news. I'm talking about giving a fair and accurate picture.
Le Solution Journalism Network référence aujourd'hui plus de 6700 enquêtes produites de la sorte par 912 médias partout dans le monde. Cela fait 15 ans que Reporters d'Espoir et Spark News font la promotion, en France, d'une approche de solution. En Angleterre, la BBC a d'ores et déjà lancé les séries BBC World Hack, So I Can Breathe ou Crossing Divides. Nous avons rencontré Émilie Casriel, qui est à l'origine de cette dynamique.
I got a lot of ideas from lots of different colleagues, both in the UK and internationally, and we called the season So I Can Breathe. And we asked, some of our big name correspondents, and we used a lot of local radio, they got involved in the UK, at coming up with lots of different stories about people tackling air pollution. But we weren't a campaign, and we had to make this really, really clear to audiences and to other people in this space. Loads of people were interested in trees as a solution to air pollution. And it was a great story to tell. It feels good. Trees, they look pretty, they kind of reduce noise. But it was important for me that as part of the story, as part of the season, we told the story that actually trees weren't very effective at reducing air pollution, at best typically reduce air pollution by about 1%. And it's because we're committed to being rigorous and analytical and not just telling positive stories because it feels good.
We're not saying it should be 50-50. We don't really know what the balance is, and the balance will change depending on how much people already know about the problem. With global warming, people already know about the problem, so they need a lot more information about potential solutions. But over time, a good editor should be able to feel the pulse of the community and understand what does my audience really need now at this point in time? What's missing?
Les journalistes disaient oui, mais attendez, les trains qui arrivent à l'heure n'intéressent personne. Le rôle du journalisme, c'est de porter la plume dans la plaie. Je me disais, il faut qu'on démontre que c'est pas antinomique. On peut parler des solutions et faire de l'audience, on peut parler des solutions sans être naïf, etc.
We did research a couple of years ago, we called it the Next Generation Audience Research, which showed that young people in the developing world in particular were interested in hearing about solutions, not just about problems. And that really has helped this audience demand. And it's us having a more nuanced understanding of news. You know, today on social media, when people see news from their friends, from different celebrities, from the BBC, it all comes together as part of a news feed. And their expectation is of a much more nuanced idea of news, not just geopolitical bad stories, which, you know, perhaps, decades ago, the BBC did a lot of those stories.
So I think the biggest problem is just the force of habit. When you cover issues through a solutions journalism lens, you usually show what's possible. The existing performance, if it's not good, it's much less legitimate. It's much harder for people to hide behind excuses. You know, a problem that people sometimes we used to think of as unavoidable, they will now think of as unacceptable because you've now shown that better options are available.
If you don't use your microphone as a lance or a dagger, can you use it as a conductor's stick instead? Asking these people to wait a little and listen to them and bring them in and listen. And here's an example, what do you think about this and what can we do? That's another role. That demands trust in the room.
Qu'il soit qualifié de journalisme de solution, de journalisme constructif ou d'impact, cette pratique nouvelle tend à s'imposer à l'étranger. Pour les journalistes qui défendent cette approche, il s'agit de faire du liant, de la médiation et surtout de préserver le sens démocratique dans nos sociétés.